Hi, everyone. My name is April, and I am the resident Akashic Records reader for Wise Guys. You found me on the Wise Guys channel, and I'm here to teach you about the Akashic Records. Today, we are going to cover what they are, kind of when and why you should use them, what they're all about, how I do my readings for myself and for other people. And then I'm going to record a sample reading to kind of give you a feel of what it should look like whenever you open your records or open the records for someone else. So to begin, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. I have been reading the Akashic Records for over 2 years now. Have been introduced to them long before that, but officially launched kind of my Akashic Records business back in 2020, and started working with Tiffany about that time as well. And so I have been doing readings for the Wise Guys Collective, and I do them for my friends, my family, and I do them for myself. So to kick it off, I'm going to just kind of explain what the Akashic Records are. So the way I was taught and the way that a lot of people speak about the Akashic Records, we describe it as a metaphysical library of information. So we know from the laws of thermodynamics that since the universe came into existence, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. So since the very beginning, we have morphed energy from one type of thing to the next forever. And so what that means to me is your energy that currently lives in your body right now has existed since the beginning of time. And there is a record of that. And the Akashic Records is where all of that data about everything your soul has ever done and ever will do lives in this metaphysical plane, in this dimension. And we refer to that as the Akashic Records. So there are entities and beings that kind of guide and govern the Akashic Records. And we refer to that entity as the Pinnacle. We believe that the Akashic Records live in the Pleiadian star cluster. It is a lot of times referred to as the Seven Sisters. This star cluster is the closest constellation to Earth. It's actually really close in terms of, if you look at measuring distance in space, it's 44.4 light years away. And so this is a place where all of this data and information lives. And the pinnacle is this light energy. It's conscious, elevated consciousness, and these beings, these entities govern and serve as like the librarians of this library that we all get to access. Now, the reason why this matters is because, as a human being in a physical body on this physical plane, I have lived before. My energy has existed, like I said, since the beginning of time. But because I am human, I can't fully contain all of that data and information in my body. It's just not possible. We weren't designed, created, however you want to look at it. We haven't evolved to be able to contain all of that information in our conscious mind at all times. But it is there for us, and we should access it because it's helpful and it's useful. So in order to get there, I like to think about the records as like an external hard drive, all of our data and information. And when we access it, when we use someone like me, or when we channel the frequency of the records, we're connecting like a cord to the external hard drive. We're able then to extract that information. And so it becomes a really helpful and useful tool whenever you're trying to understand yourself better, whenever you want to kind of tackle patterns and cycles that you can't break out of, when you want to understand past lives, when you want to connect with your cosmic team and your guides, whenever you just want to know what's next for you, or if ever you just want to experience this feeling of unconditional love and validation from the divine. All of these things are reasons to use the records. They are all super valid, and it really can serve so many different purposes. I find, being being in my records and reading for other people as kind of the all-encompassing. We have other tools. We use tarot, we use astrology. The records has all of it in one place. And so a lot of times I'll even open the records and do tarot cards, because it's just another way where we're tapped into the energy. And then from that energy, we can use other tools. And so there's really no right or wrong way to use the records, but I am going to go over some ground rules so that you can be better positioned to receive the energy, to get that information and use it and apply it in your life. And I'm also just going to teach some things based on how I was taught that I found to be very helpful. So while all things are permissible, not all things are the best way to do it. And so I'm going to give you those guardrails so that you can enter and be and exist in the records and use them in a way that is beneficial, that is honoring of the divine, honoring of the pinnacle and the energies that govern this physical plane, or this metaphysical plane rather, and just to really help you access and to have the best experience possible. So I'm going to jump in and pull up some do's and don'ts. So before we go any further, I do want to correct myself. The Pleiadian star cluster lives within the Milky Way galaxy, and it is 444.2 light years away. So a lot of times, whenever we're working with Akashic Records energy, we get a lot of the number 4. So 4/4 is a date that is pretty sacred. It's a great time to open the records, April 4th. Anytime you start seeing the pattern of 4/4 and 444, it's just really special. So just keep your eyes open for those numbers. Additionally, we are ready to move into kind of the do's and don'ts, some parameters, best practices around how to enter the records and what to do, so that you are just ready to have the best experience. So first of all, I always say sober up. You want to make sure that your body is free of any substances such as drugs or alcohol that would alter your mind or kind of mess with your experience. So this does not include prescription medication. It doesn't include anything you take on a daily basis for your own physical, mental, emotional well-being, but it does indicate that you should not be drinking alcohol while you're in the records. Also, taking drugs to alter your experience or to try to enhance your experience is just not necessary. It really just will inhibit your ability to connect and hear messages clearly. You also kind of steal some of the meaning behind it. If you don't have a clear mind, if you aren't really focused and present in your body, you will then second guess some of the messages you receive, and you just don't need to do that. You don't need to create any reason to not believe what's happening, and any reason to not really value the messages you receive. So first of all, we want to be sober. We want to be in our right mind to the best of our ability, and we just want to be clear-headed. Additionally, another best practice I always follow is to make sure that you don't go in on an empty stomach. You want to make sure that you have eaten, that you've eaten something healthy, something nourishing, so that your body is really ready. I really love to make sure I have like nuts and seeds, something earthy and grounding, to eat either before or after I have a reading. And that's really just because in order to access the records, we're almost kind of leaving our body and having an out-of-body experience. We are accessing energy that lives in a different dimension. And so eating food from the earth that is truly nourishing and good for our bodies helps bring us back down, helps kind of recalibrate, makes us just lean into kind of coming back into reality in some ways. And so I really recommend that you eat, that you go in not on an empty stomach, and that after you do a reading, just like even a bite of chocolate, like dark chocolate, or like I said, seeds or nuts, that can be ideal. Okay, so this is a absolute must. This next point is a cardinal rule. And I would say for any reading, this is a cardinal rule. You always want to ask permission. So you can read for yourself at any time. You can open your records at any time. It's your data, it's your information. Of course, you can access it whenever you want. However, if you're going to read for other people, you need to gain their permission. And this applies to pets, and to your property, any land that you want to read for, and children. And generally, we advise against reading for people under the age of 18. First of all, because consent gets murky. If you're asking your child if you can do something, it's hard for them to give you full permission without factoring in the power dynamic. If you're a parent, you are their authority figure. And so it's hard to know if that consent is real or if it is coerced in a way. And so I think it gets a little bit more gray as your children get older. If they are teenagers, for example, and they come to you asking for you to read, I think that's completely different. But if you just really want to know something about them, and ask for their consent for your 6-year-old, like, I don't know that feels, in alignment with the kind of how we would view consent especially in the terms of power dynamics. So keep that in mind. As you're progressing, obviously make decisions to the best of your ability, and ultimately I'm sure there are circumstances in which it would be really important to do that reading, but just be aware that those power dynamics exist. So I kind of glossed over the pets and land thing, so I want to loop back. You can read the records for your pets and for property that you own, that you have purchased. And this is a really cool thing. So if your pet is sick or you just want to communicate better, if you're having issues with an animal, you can ask permission to read their records and get some insight in what's going on. So what does that mean? How does that look? Well, first of all, you kind of know your animals. If they're looking at you, if they're doing positive things like licking you, nudging you, after you ask, can I open your records and read for you, or read them for myself? You can kind of read their body language and behavior. Now, if they turn around, walk away, turn their face away, something like that, that's probably an indication that it's a no. And so, use your best discretion around that. Additionally, with property, land, if you own it, if you purchased it, if it's yours, then you can open the records for that property at any time. And what I just like to do when I'm reading for land is make sure that I bring in the consciousness of any entities, any spirits, even the plants and trees that live there, and really tread lightly the first time you open the records, because you just don't know what you don't know. And some things may be revealed about that property that you were unaware of. So tread lightly, be careful. I would say don't start reading for pets and property in the beginning until you're a more advanced reader. I think it's just going to work out better for you. You'll be more familiar with the energy, and can make really good decisions about how you want to approach any information that comes through. Okay, so another thing I want to mention, since we're talking about asking permission and getting consent, just something to note: when you open the records for a particular person, you have access to their information only. You can't then leapfrog and ask about somebody else. So if I'm reading for a client and they want to know about their partner, loved one, child, we can only access information about that person in the way that it relates to the individual I'm reading for. We can't get then into someone else's records and understand like what they're thinking. What we can do is understand dynamics between for the client that you're actually reading for. We can understand what their patterning is, what their role is, how they're responsible, what that relationship means to them. But we can't go into what is the psychology behind why this person is acting this way. That's off limits. So sometimes it's really good to set boundaries and communicate what can be done and what can't be done, so that we don't have any missed expectations, especially when we're reading for other people who want to know about relationships and loved ones in their lives. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, another best practice and kind of guideline that I always follow is a brief meditation. Now, a lot of times I will do a full 3.5-minute grounding meditation with my clients before we enter the records. I find it really valuable to just do some deep breathing, to center yourself. It clears the mind, clears any negative energy that's kind of lingering around, and just really sets a great tone for the reading itself. However, it doesn't have to be that complicated. You can just take some deep breaths, maybe put your feet in the dirt, stand outside, do some grounding. It can be long or it can be short. Whatever makes sense for what you're doing is fine, but always take at least a moment to do some deep breaths. Okay, another best practice is to clear the energy in the room. I really like to have kind of a sacred space where I typically open the records and read, only because it helps. You want to just keep the energy clear. You don't need a lot of other auras and energetics coming into your space while you're doing a reading. So if you are kind of like, sitting down in the living room to do a reading, maybe you want to clear the air by burning some sage, some Palo Santo. If you have allergies, you can always buy cleansing room sprays that are smokeless and just okay for anybody with breathing problems or asthma. That can be really helpful too. So do some clearing, even just fresh air. I mean, do not sleep on the beautiful energy of just oxygen and fresh air from outside. Let it blow through, clear away anything that's lingering in the space, say a blessing, and I think you're good to go. Okay, another thing that can happen, people will open the records and then kind of forget, they'll get distracted, and then they move on and they don't close that doorway. And it's really important. So this is like, think about like a proper shutdown of your computer. Like, don't just close your laptop or hard shut down. Like, you want to let everything kind of shut down the right way. And this really helps to make sure that you don't leave that energy open and like things coming through that shouldn't be late, 2-3 hours later. It also, when you're reading for other people, helps keep a boundary so that you're not interacting with that person's energy all day. So always like doing a closing ceremony is helpful. So how I do this is I just say, I give a gratitude message. I bless the entities that showed up. Thank everyone. I thank my highest self. I thank the highest self of anyone I'm reading for. I give gratitude to the records themselves. And then I say, the records are now closed. Amen. 3 times. So this really shuts the door, like I said, and puts a proper boundary around your reading. Okay. So what happens if you have a really intense reading and you just feel icky after, or you feel really drained? There's like a lot of energy, a lot of emotion that happened. Anything that you would normally do to kind of project or protect your energetic boundaries can be helpful. That could be an Epsom salt bath, doing some yoga, moving some energy, getting some exercise. Really take care of yourself before and after the readings that you're doing, just because, you are interacting with pretty intense energy at times, and you want to just make sure that you get that self-care in as well. Okay, awesome. So those are the ground rules. We went over 7 different best practices around how to do the records. I know I'm talking fast. This is a lot of information. Don't worry, you'll be given a handout probably within, the description of this video, or if you're watching this on the website, we will make sure that paired with the video, you will get a handout that just like outlines all of this. So you don't have to write it all down and take notes. We'll provide that to you. Okay, another thing that I want to get into is just the methodology of how I typically open the records, what that looks like, what my process is, and then I'm going to show you a sample records reading. And I'm going to do that by actually reading for anyone watching this video. We can read for collective groups, which is really nice. So you could read for, a club or like an audience for a podcast. We do that a lot. So we can do collective readings. The wider, bigger the group, the more general the reading tends to be. But sometimes we get very specific things that will resonate with either everyone or a specific person who just really needed to hear that message. So definitely do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through how I do this. And so to open the records, in order to kind of plug in that cord, channel the frequency, access this other dimension, there is a prayer I was taught to pray. And if you want to learn more about exactly how I was taught, I always recommend Ashley Wood. Her business is Align Within, and she is who taught me to read the records, and she is the one who channeled this prayer. She calls it the prayer of the new world. And this is how I always open the records. And what's so interesting is as I say these words, it's not that they're magic words and that you have to say them exactly like this every time. But what I notice when I do pray the prayer is I kind of start clicking into place, and it's like fine tuning on a radio dial, like tuning into the right frequency. Sometimes it's a little staticky and you're kind of moving around, and then it gets really clear. That's what this prayer does. It just makes sure that your connection is super clear, so that when you're tapped in, you're receiving, everything is coming through easily and everything's flowing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the prayer. And as I do that, I will then move into actually doing a prayer and opening the records for the audience of this video. So let's see, what am I going to call you guys? I will say students of the Akashic Records. And I'm going to write that down because I have to say that name multiple times. So I'm going to refer to anyone watching this video as part of this group, which we're calling students of the Akashic Records. So I'm going to say the prayer, and we'll do it together, and then I'll go into a reading so you can kind of see and experience how it looks and feels. All right, so we gather together in light, we gather together in love, we gather together in knowing the messages from above. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our greatness. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our wisdom. Through the Akashic Records, we understand what's there. This prayer will help deliver us there. I wish to know the students of the Akashic Records through the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see students of the Akashic Records through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel the students of the Akashic Records through the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see students of the Akashic Records through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel the students of the Akashic Records through the light of the Akashic Records. And now the records are open. So I'm sensing a lot of seeker energy. I'm sensing a lot of this open-hearted, open-mindedness, this desire to use this tool, to benefit from it, to understand it. And the message I'm getting right now is that you simply do not need to micromanage this process. You just need to show up for it. You need to be willing. You need to open your heart and trust that it will work for you, that it is the right thing for you to do. You are in the right place, in the right time, and you are ready in this moment to take this next step, this leap of faith. We're jumping from one cliff to another, and there's this chasm in between, and it feels very scary to make that leap of faith and that jump, but trust that you're going to land on solid ground, that the universe has your back, and that this energy is there to support you and lift you as you go across. So I'm also just seeing this huge support system that's there to catch anyone that may slip or fall. That this isn't a winner take all or high stakes situation. If you slip and fall, you have guides, you have angels, you have eagles that are ready to swoop you up and carry you to where you need to be. So don't worry about getting it perfect, getting it right the first time. This is something that will be new and interesting, but also a little scary, and a little bit of that like fear of the unknown is coming up. And so just lean into that, know that you are covered, know that you are safe, and know that what's next is good, that there are good things on the other side of this for you. Don't be shy. Don't hold back. Try it. This is an opportunity for you to experience yourself in a whole new way. So feeling really called to just deliver comfort and peace to our audience today, to any student who is witnessing this video. Thank you for being here. I'm just sensing this excitement from the Pinnacle to have people who are interested and who want to learn, who want to access this space. I just see a library filled with dusty books, that there are so many books that have never been read, have never been picked up by people, and they're aching to be read and held and experienced. And you are here to do that. You are fulfilling a calling and a purpose and a destiny. Because you are here today, you are chosen. You have been chosen to pick up this knowledge and to learn from it. Think about if there's almost a treasure map, a map that's guiding you to all the best things that are waiting for you in your life. And you're just refusing to read. You're refusing to pick up the book and learn it. You're refusing to walk this path. By being here today, you're literally picking up that treasure map, and it's going to guide you to exactly where you need to go. And that's exciting. So many of us wander through trails and paths, and I just feel like goat paths and cow trails, and it just feels very meandering and wandering without any clear sense of direction. Today, we're here to give you direction. The records are here to show up for you and give you the direction you've been looking for. What a beautiful message. So with that, I'm going to close the records. I give gratitude to this audience, these students who are here to learn. I give gratitude to the Pinnacle for being such a kind, benevolent guide in this process. I give gratitude to the Akashic Records for being a source of infinite wisdom and truth. And I give gratitude to myself for showing up as the channel. Your records are now closed, amen. Your records are now closed, amen. Your records are now closed, amen. Okay, so really that was it. I did a very abbreviated reading, but typically what happens for me is I open the records, I say the prayer of the new world, and then information comes through. I get images, thoughts, smells, sounds. Sometimes things play for me like a movie. It can look different depending on the person, but I get messages coming through right away. And then typically, after that initial energy subsides, that's when we can start asking direct questions. So questions that I typically get are like, what's next for me in my career? How can I show up and be seen? How can I improve relationships and connect more deeply with the people in my life? What is my purpose? Why am I here? What's going on? Why can't I break this cycle? Why do I still struggle to do XYZ? All of those things are great questions. Another way I really like to use the records is when I learn something new. Like, let's say you just learned about your human design and you understand your strategy and authority for the first time ever. You can go into the records and then get information that's custom for you about how to live that out. So I have in particular emotional authority, and my strategy, because I'm a manifesting generator, is to wait to respond. And so if I'm like, okay, I'm in this situation, I know that I'm emotional authority, how do I get clarity? How do I ride this wave? I could go into my records and get some details around how that needs to play out for me in my life in real time. And so it's a great way to take a level of understanding, some revelation that you've had, and really build upon that and get that next level of insight that is custom for you. That's what's so cool and special. Another way of using the records is just to understand, like, what to be aware of, what past things are impacting you in the present. We talked about past lives. I love dealing with past lives in the records. I also love introducing people to their guides and their cosmic team. So if you're really feeling alone and isolated, or you want to even connect to a past loved one, a lot of times there's a mediumship component that comes through when we're in the records. So it's just really fascinating, and I absolutely invite you to follow up with me if you have very specific questions on ways that you can use the records. That's something I am always learning and evolving in myself. And so as you begin to kind of open the records for yourself and begin that process, I know you'll have questions. I'm here. You can always reach out. So I also want to touch on something really important, which is how you go from understanding what to do, how to do it, and then actually doing it. So moving from theory to practice is a big deal. How I got started and what I highly recommend is to read for yourself many times before you start reading for other people. That's simply to protect you and to protect others. So if you are going in blind, you've never done this before, you have no idea how your body will react, how your physical presence and emotions will react. It's good to start small and work your way up. Now, I will say I love to put energetic boundaries around myself and for other people as I'm doing readings. So the first time you go in, let's say you're going into the records for the first time and you want to meet your cosmic team. You want to bring forward some guides. What I do is I always set parameters. I say, I welcome anyone in this space who serves unconditional love and is here for my highest good. I say the same thing when I'm reading for other people and inviting their guides in. So putting those energetic parameters really helps us keep anything dark, anything weird out of here. So I love boundaries. If you have ideas of other boundaries you want to set up whenever you're doing readings for yourself or other people, absolutely do that. This is something that I created for myself. I wasn't taught that way, but it is something that I practice. Another thing to note as you're starting to do readings for other people is just to be really open and not micromanage how the messages are coming across. Tiffany teaches this in her psychic development, that we don't need to translate the messages as they come, as they flow, just let them come in as they are. So if I'm seeing a picture of a red hammer, I'm going to say a red hammer. And then maybe I can offer some intuitive interpretation, but I'm not going to change the message because I think it sounds weird or something is like kind of strange. Like there's this person named Bonnie who wants to come in and talk to you. I'm not going to push that away or, kind of in my own mind and what I think makes sense, translate that. You need to just let the message be what it is, and trust that there's a reason and that it will land with that person. I find that the more I remove myself from the reading and just let it come through naturally, the better and more accurate they become. Another thing I've noticed is that as I'm doing readings, sometimes it's good to do them live. Other times it's good to just record the reading separately and not do it live. This is because if you are someone who gets in your head a lot and worries about how messages are being received in the moment, if you're overthinking, then you really have your brain kind of activated and you can't get fully into the kind of channeling space, the psychic space that you need to be in order to receive the messages. So if it's uncomfortable to you to do live readings, that's totally fine. You can record them. I will say if you send a recording, always ask for feedback because you don't want to just send something out and leave someone hanging. If something was really exciting or really interesting or really just didn't hit right or it kind of triggered something, I always like to keep that channel open for further processing and understanding. So another kind of thing to note on the back end. So if you are someone who begins reading for yourself, you feel really comfortable, you want to open that up, I always recommend to start reading for people people who love you and trust you, because when there's already a level of trust there, the reading kind of gets you'll feel better about it, they'll feel better about it, and you need to build your trust muscle with yourself. It does feel wild. There's kind of that imposter syndrome about psychic work and spiritual readings. You feel like, am I just making this up? Is this just me? And so starting with people that can feel safe, there's a container around it. And then as you start moving into reading for strangers, people you've never talked to before, make sure that feedback loop is there so that they can tell you, this really hit, this was exactly spot on. And it just helps you grow and develop as a reader. Okay, so we've basically done it. This is the intro to how to read the Akashic Records. Again, I am available for any follow-up questions, any concerns. Also, you can always book readings with me through the Wise Guys Collective website. I am available to do them for you. And if you have further questions, email me, april@wiseguyscollective.com. I would love to chat more. I'm typically easy to find on the Wise Guys podcast from time to time. I attend classes and workshops, so I'm absolutely accessible. And I would just love to know how this training was for you. And if you feel comfortable to take those first steps into doing the readings for yourself and then eventually for others. And if there's anything else that you'd love to see us speak to or touch on, we always love to hear from you directly. Thank you so much.